We are going to be doing a post-World Cup ranking, guys. If you remember, at the start of the World Cup, we ranked every single country from 48th all the way to 1st. And now we are going to be doing it once again after seeing the World Cup. As you can see, there is 6 different tiers. So the top tier is the top 5 best countries in the World Cup that had the best performances. The second tier is 6 to 10. Then we have the good tier, which are teams that performed okay. You know, they're pretty good. That's 11 to 20. Then we have the okay, you know, they're meh, they were okay, you know, maybe got to round of 32, had 1 or 2 good performances, 1 or 2 bad ones. 21 to 30. 31 to 40 is kind of ass. These teams, you know, they maybe got a win, but other than that, they were kind of shit. And then 41 to 48 is garbage. That's just the teams that were shit. They conceded maybe 10 goals, they barely scored, lost every game, got knocked out in the group stages. That's the bottom tier. The first team we're starting off with is Mexico from Group A, guys, the host nation in the World Cup. And I think Mexico were actually pretty good, guys. They won their first 4 games, but then obviously they lost against England. They won every game in the group stage. I think good, guys. I think Mexico deserved to go in good. If you remember Mexico's performance against England, they low-key could have won that game. They were dominating for the last 30 minutes. If England weren't so good defensively, if Pickford wasn't making so many saves, Mexico probably would have won. I think good. I think this is a good ranking for Mexico. Moving on to the next country, we have South Africa. South Africa obviously made it to the round of 32. They lost against Canada. South Africa's a weird one because they had a horrible start. That game against Mexico was horrible. 2 red cards, Sithole, trash. But low-key, they kind of pulled it back after that. They had a horrible start, but then they kind of pulled it back a little bit. They lost against Mexico. They got that draw, and they got that win against South Korea, which was impressive. I think I'm going to put them in kind of ass. Like, bro, they just were not good. Those 2 losses against Mexico and Canada were probably some of the worst performances in this World Cup. Moving on to the next country, we have South Korea. Yo, these guys were shit. They were trash. Bro, how did South Korea, after that first game against Czech Republic, where they looked so good, turn so shit? Were they a bottom 8 team? No, they weren't. They still got a good win. The other games, they were shit, but they still had chances. Even against Mexico, we could have seen them get a result. But, you know, Mexico's goalkeeper made some very good double saves at the very end of the game. I think South Korea were kind of ass. Were they garbage? Maybe in some games, but in general, I'd put them in kind of ass. Moving on to the next team, we have Czech Republic. And this team, I think they were garbage. 0 wins, which I predicted them in second place, which may be a bad prediction, but 0 wins, -4 goal difference. But they were shit. They were garbage. They were absolutely stinking up the gaff. Moving on to Canada. Yes, sir, guys. Our first ever World Cup win in history and our first ever knockout stage win in history. Come on, let's not disrespect. Were they as good as Mexico? No. No. They got a draw against Bosnia. They lost against Switzerland. They destroyed Qatar. To be fair, they were down to 10 men, though. I would say okay, guys. I think okay. I'm not trying to be biased as a Canadian, but I think they were okay. Moving on to the next country, we have Bosnia and Herzegovina. I don't know. You know, for beating Italy and then performing like that in the World Cup, I personally was underwhelmed. I thought even though in the group stage, you know, we saw them beat Qatar, they drew Canada, but I thought they were pretty shit in most of their games. And against USA, they were kind of ass as well. Even going down a man when USA Balogun got the red card, they were still kind of ass. I'm thinking Bosnia is the other team and kind of ass. I think they were shit. Let's just be honest, guys. They were kind of ass. Qatar. Yeah, Qatar. Hey, let's not go much further. But moving on to Switzerland, where do you guys think Switzerland deserves to go? Now, Switzerland made it very far in this World Cup. They made it to the quarterfinals, and I think they were much better than expected, guys. I feel like a lot of people didn't expect that, but bro, quarterfinals. We saw them get that win against Colombia in penalties. They got that 2-0 win against Algeria. They won pretty much every game in the group stages other than that draw against Qatar. I think they're at the very top of good. Like, they're around like 11th or 12th. Maybe, yeah, they're very top of good. Very top of good. But I do agree with you guys. I would say good for Switzerland. Moving on to Brazil. They got the win against Haiti. They got the win against Scotland. They drew against Morocco 1-1. Then we saw them beat Japan coming back in the game, but then they lost against Norway. Sometimes Carlo Ancelotti maybe wasn't starting the best lineup. Like, obviously they suffered with a few injuries, but even some games where we saw, for example, Cunha not play. Why? I don't know why. In some of the games that they won, they were pretty good, they just lacked a little bit sometimes. Even against Norway, we saw defensively, you know, players like Gabriel, Marquinhos, they just lacked that little bit. And maybe it's due to long seasons. You know, both of these players went extremely far in the Champions League, but I feel like they could have done better. We're going to put Brazil at the top of okay. But like I said, later on, they might move further up. Moving on to the next country, we have Morocco. Hey, yo, Morocco, bro. I think Morocco were good. I think Morocco were very good. I thought Morocco, other than that loss against France, like, bro, I think they were good in pretty much every single game. Like, their attackers were incredible. Saibadi was fantastic. And even after getting injured, they were still good. But you saw that they were lacking that star player up front that was scoring all the goals. So it did tarnish them. But imagine if Saibadi didn't get injured. They might have made it to another semifinal. I don't think Morocco can go in good. I can't see it, guys. I can't see it. Guys, moving on to Haiti. Their second ever World Cup appearance. They didn't get a result, but they got some goals. Some people may have not expected them to get goals, which they did get, but I would put Haiti in garbage. Haiti is the best. AW Haiti. I love all my Haitians, but they were garbage. Scotland, guys. Scotland. I don't know, bro. I don't know. Scotland were kind of ass. Hold on. What was their goal difference? It was shit, wasn't it? Wasn't it minus? Yeah, -3 goal difference. They got the win against Haiti, barely. And, you know, they had a -3 goal difference, got knocked out. I think they were garbage, bro. I think Scotland were garbage. Scotland were bad, bro. Scotland were bad. They were garbage. Like, maybe at the top of garbage, maybe around like 42nd place. But bro, they were shit. Like I think everyone expected them to get out of the group at least. And bro, they just fumbled. They fumbled so hard. I think they were ass. I think they were garbage. We got Donald Trump. Donald Trump FC. Where should USA go? So USA made it to the round of 16. Some people had higher expectations for them. I didn't. I predicted them to make it to the round of 16. They got there and they got butt fucked by Belgium. We're gonna put USA in okay for now. They could maybe move up to good at the end of the ranking, but I think for now we'll put them in okay. I don't think they were as good as Mexico. I don't think they were as good as Switzerland as well. Paraguay, bro, let's not talk about them. They made it to the knockout stages and they beat Germany. Okay, so that's already takes them up a couple levels. Did they play good football in any of their games? I wouldn't really say so. I would say they did what they had to do. You know, we saw them get an early goal. We saw them get a draw. We saw them win, you know, on penalties. And then against France, that was horrible. That was ass against France. That was maybe the second worst game in the World Cup other than the final. But I think okay is the right spot. Did they play good looking football? Hell nah. Hell no. But they were okay. They made it to the round of 16, so I think they deserve to be in this ranking. Australia. Where do you guys think Australia deserves to go on this tier list? They finished in second place. You know, we saw them get that one win against Turkey. They drew against Paraguay in that boring ass game, and they lost against USA. I think their only really good performance was that win against Turkey. Against Paraguay, both teams had nothing to play for pretty much. They just settled with a draw. Against USA, they were pretty shit for majority of the game. And against Egypt, I didn't really think they were that good either. So I think we're going to put them in kind of ass. We can always move them up, but for now, kind of ass. Moving on to the next country, Turkey. Yo, Turkey, bro. With the expectations, with how they performed, and with how far they got, Turkey may have been the worst team in this World Cup. With that last win, they made it look better on paper. But we all saw it with our own eyes, bro. That shit was ass, bro. Garbage. Moving on to Germany. This one may be a little bit controversial. Germany, they made it to the round of 32 and they lost against Paraguay. In the group stages, we saw them get that win against Ivory Coast, that late win. We saw them beat Curaçao. They smoked Curaçao, but then they got that poor result against Ecuador. But guys, Germany, let's go kind of ass. Let's go kind of ass. They were trash. Next up, we have Curaçao. They scored against Germany, which was a crazy goal from them. They got that draw against Ecuador, which is incredible, but they're not a good team. They're not a good team. Guys, this is where we have to take away the expectations from it, and we have to solely look at their performances, because the expectations were nothing. And to get a draw against Ecuador and score a goal against Germany, technically it's very good. But if you look at solely their performances, guys, they lost 7-1 against Germany. They lost 7-1. And Germany, we put them in kind of ass. Germany weren't good. For Curaçao to lose 7-1 against Germany is trash. I think we have to put Curaçao in garbage. You know, good story, Good draw against Ecuador, but if we base it solely off their performances, they were garbage. They were garbage. And that's because they don't have a good team. They don't have a good enough team. They don't have enough people in the country. Moving on to Cote d'Ivoire. This may be another controversial one. If we look at them in the knockout stages, they lost against Norway. And we look at them in the group stages. Yes, they finished second place, but they were up against Curaçao and they were up against a shitty Ecuador. I think they could have been higher. They could have got further if it wasn't for individual errors. Like, for example, you take a look at Adingra screwing up that chance in the last minute against Germany, and then Germany go up the other end and they score. I think if Ivory Coast didn't make such poor mistakes individually, they maybe could have been better. They could have been higher. They could have finished better in the World Cup. Ivory Coast will put them in okay for now. And guys, moving on to Ecuador, hey, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. They're ass. They were ass. Ecuador were ass, bro. People were hyping them up so much. I was hyping them up so, bro. Yo, hold on. Didn't I predict Ecuador to make it to the semifinals? Gosh, this team was shit. This team was shit. I would say kind of ass is fair. Guys, moving on to the next country, we have Netherlands. Ooh, this is a tough one, bro. Netherlands were expected by some to make it to the quarterfinals, semifinals. I personally didn't see them making it that far, but I expected at least a round of 16. Round of 32 lost against Morocco. And let's not take away the fact that in the group stage, everyone said they had, oh, such a good defense. But they didn't keep one clean sheet in this tournament. They didn't keep one clean sheet. I think okay. Moving on to the next country, we have Japan. Honestly, in terms of their expectation before the World Cup, I think they were underwhelming. I think a lot of people expected more from Japan. Yes, they suffered from injury, which is very tough. They fumbled against Brazil. In the group stages, they also weren't really that good. They finished in second place. I didn't think they were anything special. They pretty much farmed their goals against Tunisia. Other than that, they drew against Sweden and they drew against Netherlands. I think Japan also deserved to go in okay. All right, guys, let's move on to Sweden. Now, to be fair to Sweden, coming into the World Cup, I was shitting on them because they did not even win a single game, and somehow they're in the World Cup with not winning a single game in the qualifiers. Like, but we see them score what was it? 5 goals against Tunisia. They got a good draw against Japan, and then they conceded 5 goals against Netherlands. I don't know, bro. I think Sweden were kind of ass. Sweden and kind of ass. Tunisia. Guys, what do you think about Tunisia? Bro, Tunisia were so garbage. It's actually not even funny. Tunisia might have been the worst fucking team in this World Cup. I don't even care what no one says. Bro, don't chat to me about Qatar. Don't chat to me about all these other teams. Bro, Tunisia were shit. So they finished last place in the group. 0 wins, 0 draws, 3 losses, minus 10 goal difference. Let's stop talking about Tunisia because it's just making me depressed thinking about them. They were trash. They were absolutely trash, guys. Moving on to the next country, we have Belgium. And you know what? Belgium actually were not bad during this World Cup. I feel like their start to the World Cup was very strange. You know, we saw them in the group stages. Guys, to be fair to them, in the group stages, they were trash. In the group stages, I think they really underperformed. In a group with the likes of Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand, to get 2 draws, I thought was pretty poor. I thought they looked like they really struggled in the attack. But I feel like that game against New Zealand really changed things for the better, because then you look at them in the knockout stages and they were much better in the knockout stages. They beat Senegal 3-2, one of the best comebacks of the tournament. We saw them destroy USA 4-1, even with Balogun. And then they lost against Spain, but they were the only team in the competition to score a goal against Spain. If they would have had a better group stage, if they won every game in the group stage, honestly, they could be top 5. But I think in a couple games, they were poor in the group stage and they struggled to score. So for that reason, I would put them in very good, but just outside top 5. Egypt, you know what? Egypt, I think, did better than expectation. They performed very good in certain games. They were so close to finishing first in their group. They were so close. They only missed out after Belgium got that incredible win against New Zealand. But they finished second in the group, tied on points, but lost on goal difference. Then we look at Egypt in the knockout stages. They were much better than expected. They beat Australia. They low-key could have beat Argentina. Some people say they should have beat Argentina, but they fumbled in the last 13 minutes. That was the only bad time from Egypt in this World Cup, was the last 13 minutes against Argentina. Let's put Egypt in good. I think they deserve it. Iran is a very difficult one, guys, because obviously, you know, you look at Iran in this tournament, they weren't the best, right? If you look at them in the group stages, they finished in 3rd place and therefore with their goal difference, they did not make it to the knockout stages. If you consider everything against Iran, the fact that they couldn't even stay in USA when all their games were in USA, they had to stay in Tijuana, Mexico. If you consider the fact that they drew against Belgium, who made it to the quarterfinals, they drew against Egypt, who arguably also could have made it to the quarterfinals. And yes, that game against New Zealand, they probably should have won, but they were down, they came back. They were down, they came back. And there was so much going against them. If they would have beat New Zealand, I think they arguably maybe could have been in good. They didn't, which takes them down. But with all that they had to go through, everything going against them, I think they deserve to go in okay. Okay, New Zealand. The expectation was very low. I think most people would have expected them to lose all 3 games. They got a draw, but they were kind of ass. Other than Just and Chris Wood, they were ass. Against Belgium, they were shit. So I think they deserve to go in garbage. Maybe towards the top of the garbage, but definitely garbage. Moving on to Spain. Hey, yo, Spain! Spain! Good shit to Spain. The World Cup winners, guys. And there's nowhere else that you can put Spain other than in the top 5 and at the very top of the top 5. The first team in the top 5, and they will definitely be the first place team at the end of the ranking, guys. Spain were the best team in this World Cup. Cape Verde. I think Cape Verde performed way better than expected. Way better than expected, bro. Cape Verde. Cape Verde. Were they as good as Mexico? Were they as good as Switzerland? They were not. They were not as good as them. Cape Verde might be the biggest overachievers in this World Cup. But if you base it solely off performances, they don't deserve, in my opinion, to go in the good section. They weren't as good as Mexico. They weren't as good as Switzerland. They weren't as good as Egypt, in my opinion. So I would put them in okay. Saudi Arabia. Ooh. You know, Saudi Arabia were shit. Saudi Arabia were ass. They finished last place. They were ass. They were trash. Guys, we already have 8 teams in garbage. We already have 8 teams in the bottom 41 to 48. Saudi Arabia needs to go in here. But if Saudi Arabia goes in here, we need to move a team out. We're going to move Scotland into kind of ass to make way for Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia were shit. Like, they were trash. Moving on to the next country, we have Uruguay. Uruguay were ass. If you look at Uruguay, I was saying throughout the whole start of the World Cup, even before the World Cup, that I do not trust their manager Bielsa. I think he's ass. I think they're overrated. I don't think they have as good players as they did a decade ago. So I didn't think Uruguay were going to make it past the round of 32. Turns out that they didn't even make it out of the group stages. So, but they were better than every single team here in garbage. So I'll put them in kind of ass, because they were kind of ass. Guys, moving on to Les Bleus. France. Hey, France, bro, coming to this World Cup. I was saying they're going to win. Obviously, they didn't. But we still have to have respect for France. They were a top 5 team in the World Cup. Guys, other than that shitty game against Spain, they were a top 5 team. Maybe not the best team like I thought at the start of the tournament, but they are a top 5 team 100%. Senegal, guys. Senegal is a tough one, guys. Senegal were in the group of death with France and Norway. Like, that's tough. To be fair, they did very good against Iraq, but they lost against both France and Norway. And then we go to the knockout stages, and they completely capitulated against Belgium. But that was the biggest capitulation I've ever seen in my life. We can only have a maximum of 10 teams in each of these tiers. And right now, we're almost at the capacity. Okay, so we're going to put Senegal in okay for now, but this fills up the whole okay section. This is the 10 teams that can fit in okay. So we might have to move some of these teams up to good. Moving on to the next team, we have Iraq. Yo, Iraq, bro, holy shit. This team, I swear, it's like they wanted to lose. It's like they wanted to lose. The goalkeeper was shit. Then their manager switched up the goalkeeper. Graham Arnold switched up the goalkeeper. The other goalkeeper was shit. They were scoring own goals. I think Iraq were a top 3 worst team in this World Cup. Like, they were shit. We already have the 8 teams that are allowed to go in this section. So we have to move another team higher to fit in Iraq. For Iraq, we're going to move Qatar up to kind of ass. Qatar were pretty bad, but at least they got that draw against Switzerland, who made it very far in the competition. So it's fair. And Iraq, they were one of the worst teams, so they need to go here. Moving on to the next country, we have Norway. Hey, yo, Norway! Norway are my dogs, bro! Norway, you know what? Norway were really, really good. Like, Norway were really good. They beat Senegal. They destroyed Iraq. They lost against France pretty badly, but it was with their B team. So I don't really count that game as a bad loss. Then you look at them in the knockout stages. They beat Cote d'Ivoire. They beat Brazil. And they arguably could have beat England if it wasn't for the wire. Bro, I think Norway were maybe a top 5 team in this World Cup. I think they're maybe 5th, but they are top 5 100%. Let's put Norway there, guys. They deserve it. Moving on to the next country, we have Argentina. I know some people may say garbage based off their attitude, but based off their performances, they still have to be a top 5. Came back, they still got the results. In the group stages, they were arguably one of the best teams. They scored multiple goals on Jordan, Austria, and Algeria. Guys, Argentina were the top goal scorers in the tournament. I know they had help. I know their attitude is shit, but they were a top 5 team. They made it to the final. I don't think there's any denying it, guys. Argentina, they have to be in top 5. Moving on to the next country, we have Algeria, guys. Ooh, Algeria, man. Algeria, they still made it to the knockout stages. They were not garbage. They definitely were not garbage. Did they underperform? In my opinion, yes. We're going to move Brazil up to good because I think okay is a little bit too low for Brazil. And we're going to put Algeria in okay. That's what we're going to do for now, guys. Moving on to the next country, we have Austria. I don't think Austria deserves to go on a higher tier than Algeria. They're pretty much the same team. They both got smoked by Argentina. They both beat Jordan. They drew against each other, and they both lost by multiple goals in the round of 32. If we want to put Austria in okay, then we have to move up one of these countries in okay. I'm thinking we move up USA or Netherlands. Okay, so guys, we'll move up Netherlands to good, and we'll put Austria in okay. Although, to be honest, guys, Netherlands getting knocked out in the round of 32, I didn't think they were that good. Definitely worse than expected, but they were still decent. They were still decent. I think this is fair. Guys, this is where it gets tough. This is where it gets tough because Jordan were garbage. Jordan were also garbage, but we don't have space. We need to move more teams up, guys. We need to move more teams up. I think this is too many teams at the bottom of this list. Let's make some changes. Let's move Saudi Arabia up. Germany. Okay, we'll move Germany up. We'll move Germany up. I think USA deserves to go into good. Although I'm not a big fan of USA, they do deserve to go up. This leaves us with how many teams? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we have space for Jordan and garbage. All right, guys, moving on to the next country, we have Portugal. Oh, Portugal. First thing we need to say is Portugal underperformed. They definitely underperformed. Yes, they maybe could have done better in some of their games. They didn't even finish first in their group. They finished second behind Colombia. And to be honest, their only really good performance was against Uzbekistan. I would say good for Portugal. I would say good for Portugal. I don't know if they deserve to go higher than that. They got knocked out in the round of 16. I don't think they deserve to go in very good. Moving on to the next country, we have DR Congo. Hey, you know what, guys? DR Congo performed better than expected, and I actually think they were pretty good. They got a few good results in the group stages. We saw them get a draw against Portugal. They beat Uzbekistan in the knockout stage. Yes, they lost against England. If it wasn't for Harry Kane on some crazy ass shit, they would have probably beat England, which would have been insane. We'll start with Ivory Coast, guys. We'll move Ivory Coast up to good. DR Congo in the okay section. Moving on to the next country, we have Uzbekistan. Respect to Uzbekistan and Uzbekistan, but they were trash. They were garbage. Let's move up Turkey, guys. Let's move up Turkey. We'll move up Australia to okay. We're gonna move up Canada from okay to good. And now this makes space for Uzbekistan because sadly they were awful. Moving on to the next country, we have Colombia. Now Colombia actually had a decent tournament. I was saying this so many times before the World Cup. I know if you guys watch my videos, you've heard me say this many times. Colombia are not clinical at all. Luis Suarez, Luis Diaz, John Arias, James Rodriguez, whoever it is, they're so bad in front of net. I actually think in terms of performances, Colombia were very good. And if they could score goals, guys, if Colombia could score goals, they might even deserve to go into very good if they could score goals. But they just can't finish for their life. They still had good performances. So I think they deserve to go in good. Guys, England were 100% top 5. 100%. No doubt about it. England were a top 5 team. Moving on to Croatia. Now, Croatia got knocked out in the round of 32 against Portugal. I was at the game. I thought Croatia's last goal could have standed. From where I was sitting, where I was watching it from, I thought it was 100% a goal. I think Mexico and Switzerland deserve to go up. We're going to move up Mexico and Switzerland. I think they deserve it. Guys, Cape Verde might deserve to go in good. They drew against the winners, and they drew in 90 minutes against the other finalists. Fuck it. Let's move Cape Verde up. Let's move Cape Verde up. Fuck it, bro. Fuck it. We all love Cape Verde. Let's move them up. And that makes space for Croatia in the OK section, which I think is deserved for Croatia. Maybe later on we move them up, but for now we'll leave them there. Ghana, I wasn't a fan of their play style. They were very, very defensive. But low-key, they were decent. They were decent, bro. Guys, if you look at Ghana in this World Cup, they were in the group with obviously England and Croatia. They finished in 3rd place, 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. And obviously they did make it into the knockout stages. And in the knockout stages, they were coming up against Colombia, which they lost 1-0. Egypt, they went toe-to-toe with Argentina and arguably could have beat them if they didn't capitulate in the last 15 minutes and Argentina got calls going their way. And they drew against Belgium. Let's move Egypt up, guys. Let's move Egypt up. I think we got to move up Japan. Although I wasn't a fan of them in this tournament, I didn't think they were that good. I think they deserve to go higher. I think Ghana have to be an okay. I think they have to be an okay. All right, guys, moving on to the last team, we have Panama. You know what? Panama were garbage. So, guys, we're going to move up New Zealand to make space for Panama. Okay, we'll move South Africa up, guys. We'll move South Africa up. And then the last thing we have to do is move up a country from okay to good. DRC got a draw against Portugal. They didn't do bad against Colombia. And they almost, they scored the first goal against England. I think DRC. Let's move DRC up. But now is where it gets really tough. Because now we need to arrange it from the worst team all the way to the best, guys. We need to arrange it. Okay, guys, we're gonna leave it at this. The final results, the final post-World Cup tier list. We're gonna go through the whole thing. The worst team, the shittiest team was Tunisia in 48th, Iraq 47th, Uzbekistan 46th, Panama 45th, Haiti 44, Curaçao 43, Jordan 42, and Czechia 41. Next tier, Qatar 40, Saudi Arabia 39, New Zealand 38, Turkey 37, Uruguay 36, Scotland 35, South Korea 34, Ecuador 33, Sweden 32, Bosnia 31. Next tier, Iran 30th, South Africa 29, Ghana 28, Australia 27, Algeria 26, Germany 25, Paraguay 24, Senegal 23, Austria 22, and Croatia 21. The next tier, good tier, 20th, DR Congo. 19th is crazy, by the way, Cape Verde. But I do think Cape Verde were the 19th best team. 19th, Cape Verde. 18, Japan. 17, Canada. 16, Cote d'Ivoire. 15, Netherlands. 14, USA. 13, Portugal. 12, Brazil. And 11, Colombia. In the very good section, in 10th place, the 10th best team, the top 10 was Egypt in 10th, Switzerland 9, Mexico 8, Belgium 7, Morocco 6, and the top 5 was Norway in 5th, Argentina 4th, England 3rd, France 2nd, and Spain were the best team in the 2026 World Cup. That was crazy, bro. That was crazy. 2.5 hours later, but we finally got the tier list done. And I think it's pretty good. I would rate it a 9.5 out of 10.